Will there be one private enterprise blockchain to rule them all? Most likely not. But if I had to make a bet on which one it could be, I'd put my money on Hyperledger Fabric. Hello and welcome back to the Akeo Tech channel, where business and technology go together like Apple products and a high price tag. My name is Louie Procopio, and today we have a special interview episode for you. Since starting the channel a couple of months ago, we have learned the basics of what a blockchain is and how it works. We've taken a look at the differences between a permissionless blockchain like Bitcoin and Ethereum and a permissioned blockchain like Hyperledger. We have taken a deep look into what we believe are the top 3 private permission blockchain projects out there. And last week, we compared these 3 projects in a comparison episode. So if you haven't seen those videos, please feel free to check them out. Today, I'm honored to have on the show Marta Piekarska, who is the Director of Ecosystem for the Hyperledger project. Stay tuned, because in the next half hour, you get to hear from Marta why she believes blockchain as a technology has moved past the stage of early adopters, and we're now in the beginning stage of the early majority. Very exciting. And we'll also hear about some really exciting live projects being run on Hyperledger today. All right, so thank you very much, Marta Piekarska, for joining the Akeo Tech Show today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I know you are very busy, and we really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk with us. So really quick, let me tell you guys a little bit about Marta. She has a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering, a double master from computer science and informatics. She has a PhD in user-informed design of privacy tools. She's been security architect for Silicon Valley startup Blockstream, lead architect on the Future of Mobile Privacy project, which is a Mozilla and Deutsche Telekom collaboration. Marta, you teach and work at Technical University Berlin, and you're currently with Hyperledger and the Linux Foundation as Director of Ecosystem.
Well, almost all of it is correct. I gave up teaching, unfortunately.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I had.
Yeah, we were talking earlier. You said you're very busy, so
Yeah,
that's understandable.
I actually love the teaching part of it, and in Hyperledger we actually have a very active academic program so that we can connect academics and researchers with enterprises.
That's really good to hear. So again, I want to thank you so much. You seem like the perfect person to talk to as far as Hyperledger. But before we get into that, really quick, what does the Director of Ecosystem do?
Oh, wow, this is a loaded question. In Hyperledger specifically, well, my day-to-day job is to connect our enterprise community, so our members, with the open source community, with the resources as well. So I'm responsible for what you could say is our member success.
Okay.
They get the best or the most out of their membership in Hyperledger, that they work and collaborate closely together, because, well, you know, blockchain is a peer-to-peer network and you need peers. So I help finding those peers. I help in facilitating discussions, and then I do obviously public outreach, public speaking, telling the story of our members. What do they do?
Awesome. Very good. So that seems like a very important job, and you know, before we get into the specifics of Hyperledger and Hyperledger Fabric, which we've covered in a previous episode, I wanted to paint a picture on, you know, today's blockchain. You know, where are we right now? So if we thought about you know, Everett Rogers' diffusion of innovation, right? Where do you think blockchain technology is on the adoption life cycle today? Are we crossing the chasm right now, or have we not even come to that point yet?
Well, recently Gartner released a report saying that we are past the hype cycle in blockchain.
Okay.
Which is exciting.
That is, yeah.
But I think that blockchain is definitely, you know, if we think about it, it's a technology that has been around for a very short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Not so long ago, I was in Singapore. In the morning, I was watching some Bloomberg, and there was this whole episode on is our enterprises ready for artificial intelligence and machine learning?
Right.
Like, wait a moment, when was machine learning invented? Turns out that the term comes from the 1960 or something.
Right. Okay.
The eight was the term coined. So we have 2018, and we are talking if our enterprise is ready. And then I go to conferences on blockchain, and everyone's like, the adoption rate is so slow. Why don't we have more? So I want to kind of, keep some perspective there. I'm definitely sure that blockchain is becoming a more prevailing technology. We are getting more and more enterprises experimenting with it,
Mm-hmm.
both in the space of industry applications and cryptocurrencies. Obviously, every now and again we hear about things popping up like ICOs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that depending on the industry, we are at most at early majority. So fintech
Right.
would I would say is most advanced, but then we have people that I would call the early majority, like governments or insurance companies.
Okay, so you actually you're saying that we're past the chasm. We've gone from early adopters and we're in the beginning of the early majority.
I think so. Yes, I would say that we've had 2 or 3 good years of people implementing blockchain technologies, failing,
Right.
making mistakes, and now we are back on track with enterprises looking at how can blockchain, what they can learn from the experiences of others.
Right. I think something that's gone on behind the scenes during this time of early adoption is all these proof of concepts that have failed and some that have not failed and are still being implemented. I think a lot of people don't really know what's as far as the masses, what is actually being done on blockchain. So this sort of brings me to what I believe and what we've kind of talked about previously in our first episode on what is blockchain. And something that I see, because the professionals and the other people that I communicate with, they're not necessarily tech savvy. There's a lot of business people who understand the need to be a part of the change or to stay relevant because of what's happening, but they really don't know what's happening. What can you say is being done today in blockchain technology that will assist with this mainstream adoption that the blockchain community is hoping happens?
Well, I think that we are more and more thinking about interoperability.
Yeah.
And we have came to the conclusion as the blockchain wizards that there won't be one blockchain to rule them all.
Right.
Not like, I'm going to tell you that Bitcoin will die in 2 years' time. I think that there is a space and time for using Bitcoin and Bitcoin blockchain. There is time and space for Ethereum, Corda, you name it, right? There are many blockchains there. I'm sure some of them will disappear soon, but most of them will stay because we've had that explosion of blockchains that is now being kind of contained into, I would say, 5 or 6 major
Right.
blockchains.
Right. Is that what you were referring to before, that the hype cycle for blockchain, you can see that we're past it?
I think so, yeah. I would say that, first of all, industries that are not very innovative or easy to innovate in, adopting blockchain, which is, means that more and more careful people are looking at it, which I would say is past the hype then. And also the fact that we are seeing less of just bursts of things. There are interesting applications, but there is not the windroller or whatever it is of kind of everyone mixing together.
Right. Thank you. When you're talking about applications of blockchain, the first application of blockchain was cryptocurrencies. It was Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain, and that's sort of been, if we talk about the masses again and the everyday people, that's been what has really broke through the media, right? Certain circles have known about blockchain for quite a while. Like you said, I mean, in the whole grand scheme of things, it's not that old of a technology, but it's been around for a decade. And as far as the technology for the everyday person or this, sort of business that wants to use this technology, it sort of seems that most people have heard of blockchain through cryptocurrencies. And there's a sort of a misconception that the concept of blockchain and cryptocurrencies is interchangeable. And I think that has something to do with, blockchain's image. There's certain people who don't see blockchain as anything bad, but I kind of feel that blockchain may have a bad image because of this misconception that blockchain is cryptocurrencies. And if you think about cryptocurrencies, they're very volatile. There's pump and dump schemes, there's scams going on, regulatory issues, things like that. And that sort of carries over into this underlying technology that's making all that possible, like this cryptocurrency. And it is a breakthrough in many ways, but there's so much more to blockchain than cryptocurrencies, right?
Absolutely. And I think that there are also many misconceptions about Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrencies,
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I heard an interview with someone who said, why are we talking about the volatile in Bitcoin prices? What is important is if one Bitcoin today is worth one Bitcoin tomorrow,
right,
or equal one Bitcoin.
Right.
It's that's if we're in a closed system, that's what matters.
Right.
So I think that blockchain is a technology that can be applied to many fields, and similarly to knives, you can use a knife to cut a steak, or you can stab somebody.
Right.
So there are always good and bad applications of any technology, and we need to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
There are more and more movements actually at various universities where computer science students need to take also ethics classes,
right,
make sure that they understand the consequences of their decisions or technologies. So it is, blockchain is a technology that can be applied to, I think, almost any field. It brings all the valuable aspects like decentralization, not relying on a single point. Also, right, decentralized system. It provides an immutable ledger or record of events, not the content of those events, but the fact that they occurred.
Right.
It is really useful in many applications when we need easy auditability and transparency. So these are the real aspects of blockchain. These are the things that we need from a blockchain. Now, the fact that this can also lead to distributing currencies in a, let's say, a hidden way. Well, yeah, it can.
Right. I'm not sure if you agree. Well, you can actually let me know if you agree. I think education on the differences between the two are important.
It is very important. That's why actually in Hyperledger, we are working very hard to launch several trainings. Have a training partnership program with some of our members who offer professional training. We have launched 2 free open online courses, so you can actually get educated about the basics for free in a space. And we are now launching also a certification program that will probably come out towards the end of the year, where you can be certified Fabric and certified Sawtooth developer.
Great. And just for those watching, we'll go ahead and add links to those programs that you just talked about, so that you'll be able to find those in the description. Awesome. So that's great to know that Hyperledger is contributing to this, this overall education of what blockchain is and what it can do. I myself am very excited. Sometimes I get very geared up thinking about, all these things that are happening. Can you now, if we sort of segue into Hyperledger and what you actually do, can you explain what the Hyperledger project is as a whole?
Absolutely. So Hyperledger was started under the umbrella of Linux Foundation.
Right.
And Linux Foundation aims to promote open source solution in every major industry. So what started with core Linux today is 50 projects across all industries. So we have automotive grade Linux, Let's Encrypt, our certificate authority. We have projects like Node.js, very famous one, or Kubernetes. So 2 years ago, we started looking at what was happening on the market with Bitcoin and blockchain, and realized that Bitcoin obviously is not something that fits that aim of promoting open source technologies in enterprise setting.
Right.
Application. But the blockchain, the underlying technology, is something that can be abstracted to all industries, as we mentioned, and can be applied to enterprise businesses. So Hyperledger started as an open source collaboration of various enterprises to create frameworks and tools for blockchain business initiatives. We have a very broad open source community, so it's not like we are pay to play, where you have to be a member to the code or contribute to the code. But we also have that membership that helps enterprises collaborate with each other, does marketing, PR support, and governance. And in Hyperledger, what started with 2 projects, Hyperledger Sawtooth and Hyperledger Fabric. After 2.5 years, grew to 5 different frameworks and 5 different tools. So all range of solutions, and all of them are they may seem at first competitive, but they're not competitive. They are complementary, I would say.
Right. We've seen that for those that have been to the Hyperledger website. It's presented as a greenhouse, and there's things that work together, and we here we're very excited, and we're very for open source projects. Of course, the Linux Foundation hosting Hyperledger is huge. With Hyperledger Fabric, and I'd love to get into Sawtooth another time. We haven't even sort of mentioned it yet to our audience, but could you talk a little bit about what Hyperledger Fabric is?
Sure. Hyperledger Fabric is a permissioned private blockchain solution, where permissioned means that only certain participants can join that network and can form a network. So you have to pass certain permissions, and then private, because the content of what is happening on a blockchain is only visible to the participants on that network. So you could have a permissioned public blockchain, like for instance Hyperledger Sawtooth or Hyperledger Indy, where only certain people can join the network and become partners on that network, but anyone can see the content of what is happening, so that it's publicly verifiable.
So it's still permission. That type of platform is still permission, but it's open.
Yeah, so think about the certification, like university degrees. Only Technical University of Berlin should be able to issue me my PhD diploma, or a fact that I got a PhD there. But you, me, our listeners, anyone should be able to verify that I have a PhD from TU Berlin. Publicly available, right? So Hyperledger Fabric is private permission. So it only is containing a certain number of participants who can read or write to that network.
Right.
It is thought of as a very business-oriented platform, which is quite plug and play, and has building blocks that you combine together.
Mm-hmm.
It has evolved over time. So initially it started with more complicated Byzantine fault-tolerant consensus mechanism, and now it's using a crash fault-tolerant consensus.
Okay.
Because the security or reliance on the consensus was kind of became relaxed. Although
Right.
I'm sure we will see at some point coming back to PBFT.
Does that have something to do with the because there's not a mass number of participants, that BFT is not necessary right now?
So in general, the more known and trusted are the participants on the network, the relaxed the consensus can be. Because if we've vetted those people in,
right,
that they will not be malicious actors to a certain, depending on your threat model. You can assume that more or less acting maliciously or not. Now, obviously, you still need a consensus because there are always honest mistakes that happen.
Right.
These do not have to be that strictly guarded. Also in some of those networks, not only Hyperledger Fabric, but many of them, there's always some governance in place, which says, yes, we are distributed. Everyone kind of can contribute to the discussion. But because this is a permission network, we can also collectively agree what happens if things happen.
Right. Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That was a very good description. A lot of what we had talked about in our Hyperledger introduction. If you can, I'd really love to hear about any notable projects live or close to launch that you can talk about that are implementing Hyperledger, or anything that falls under the umbrella of Hyperledger.
Sure. The benefit of working in open source is that I can literally talk about everything that I do.
Right.
So there is no secret on that. Actually, the only secret is that we sometimes don't know when people go live or even use Hyperledger frameworks because it's
right.
So we don't know.
Right. Right.
But from what we know, some of the more interesting projects probably are WeTrade, which is a collaboration between several banks aiming at improved trading mechanism for SMEs.
Okay.
There is a very interesting project around Hyperledger Indy, which is our identity solution. That one is being implemented in the Philippines for know your client processes.
Okay.
Currently, only 44% of Filipinos have access to bank accounts because of the cumbersome and very paper or manual process of KYC. Other examples for, say, Hyperledger Sawtooth, that's one of my favorite ones is in the music industry.
Okay.
There's a company called Blockchain Media BC that is implementing Hyperledger Sawtooth as part of their solution for a content management and authorship rights management.
Right.
Another build on Hyperledger Fabric is around sustainable supply chain. So another one of our members is implementing special QR codes that you can on any kind of packaging.
Okay.
That attests to what is the content of that packaging.
Right.
And you can track, like one of their biggest projects is with Colombian coffee. So making sure that the coffee comes from the right place and
right.
Another project on that side, which is for higher security standards, is one done by Thales and Accenture together with company that produces crypto seals, and these partner together to create a very secure supply chain solution for manufacturing.
Thank you. I have a quick question. Talking about supply chain, you have, you have those that are directly involved in the supply chain. And I guess you can also say that the end consumer is also directly involved in the supply chain. In that situation that you gave with these QR codes, because we were in the subject of permission, right? You need to be, you need to be sort of approved to be a part of the ecosystem. But what about in that situation for a consumer person? How does that tie into, being a permissioned blockchain? Are you guys using other tools or methods to allow a consumer to basically verify those types of things? Or, how is that going to look for, the end consumer?
Well, consumer is on the public versus private side of thing, not permission versus. As long as you don't need to write to that blockchain, you don't need to pass the permissions, right?
Right.
So a consumer receives a thing and requests information from the blockchain saying, is this true?
Right.
So all of the other participants on that network, so if you take, for instance, JD in China is tracking bananas on the blockchain.
Okay.
And so what they need to do is they have to have the farmers that grow the bananas, the certification body that verifies if the bananas are fair trade or not,
Mm-hmm.
The shipping companies, the probably also, I'm not sure, but I would assume also the supermarkets.
Right.
These have to become part of that network, run
Right.
there. But the consumer that buys a banana and wants to check if it's a real JD verified fair trade, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and if it has the right curve, that one just takes a phone, snaps the QR code or however they are using it, and that's it.
So they're basically reaping the benefits of a supply chain being on the blockchain, the transparency, the being able to trace things, and they don't even know it.
And I think that's the way to in the future. If we need to know that a fridge is using blockchain, then we fail, right?
Right.
What we do is we need to know that my fridge knows what it's doing and it's doing securely, right? It's getting secure updates. Although I really think that fridges won't have blockchain in them, but who knows?
Who knows?
If we talk about self-driving cars, for instance, right? How much technology goes into self-driving cars, and half of it we don't even know about.
Right.
We don't know how much effort Google is putting into artificial intelligence to help us with search engines. We just Google things today.
We just Google it. We just type it in the search bar, and then there's a list of
my questions and almost my language. So same with solutions using blockchain. Whenever it is, if we talk about a solution here in the UK implemented with medical industry, where you can book appointments with your doctor and securely access the healthcare records and so on and so forth. I just see an app, and I just like the only point where actually this particular app for medical chain reveals that it uses blockchain is because you can also pay with Bitcoin there.
Okay. Right.
But if it wasn't for that, you would never know that there's a blockchain behind.
Right. Right. And I think that's like you said, that's sort of the end goal. We can't really make sure that everybody knows that they're using, or everybody understands, because that's how it works today. We all have phones that we just use. We open them up. We utilize these things in our life, but we don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And so this is a very exciting time, I think. And again, I really thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Is there anything that you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to say?
Well, I will highly encourage everyone to just visit our website and check out how can you become part of that Hyperledger community, because there are so many ways to get involved with us. Join working groups that are public. Just come to our Hackfest, which are public events. We even have a conference that is happening in Basel at the end of December, mid-December. That is our first Hyperledger conference.
Right.
And the global forum, as we called it, will be focusing purely on deployments and war stories and what people have actually done with it. So it should be very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Thank you again, Marta, so much for taking time. And yeah, I wish you guys good luck. I hope to stay in contact with you. And again, we'll put all the links in the description for everybody who's interested in contributing or just learning more. There's so much to learn. And yeah.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Will there be one private enterprise blockchain, a blockchain?